All right, I'm calling this meeting of the Board of Education to order. We'll start this evening with public comment. Each person will get 3 minutes to speak. We have a pretty full house this evening. So I ask that you respect the time. Everyone else who wants to speak tonight, try to wrap up with 3 minutes. We'll start with Charlie Bergstorm.
Good evening. Thanks everybody for coming. The Madison Metropolitan School District Student Services have the following stated vision, quote, all students will live, work, and thrive as contributing and valued members of our community. And the following belief statement, quote, we believe in an inclusive community in which all have the right to contribute. For the last several years, the West High School Women's Swim and Dive team under Coach Amanda Elmaker's leadership have lived that vision and belief by allowing students with disabilities to join the team as non-scoring members. This year, the team has cut a member who has belonged to the team for 2 years as a non-scoring member. Additionally, they have rescinded the invitation to participate to a scholar, my daughter, who had been promised team membership, and she really viewed that as part of her identity as a West scholar, and it's been a big part of her anticipating and adjusting to high school life. In a political environment which inclusion is being eliminated step by step, MMSD should have the continued commitment and courage to continue to value this important principle. Really, I think this comes down to who we want to be as a district, as a school board, as individuals. If everybody could look inside themselves and think about that question, who do we want to be? You know, we could choose to be a district where we scour case law, narrowly interpreting guidance by the Office of Civil Rights and DPI to justify exclusion. Or should we really actually meet our stated goals as a district, as a board, and as individuals? You know, as my work as an intensive care pediatrician, I've learned that the threshold for hurting children needs to be very high. You know, and in my work, we make mistakes. We have to make difficult decisions. Sometimes we have to hurt kids to try to get them better, you know, against our best efforts to try to limit that. And I would argue that these kind of decisions hurt not just Asha, not just Aurelia. I've also spoken to some of the parents of other kids who were cut from the team that don't have disabilities. And I feel like, honestly, there's been harm done to those children as well that anticipated after multiple years of participating in the team. Now they won't be able to. They've lost their sense of community. I think there's some different issues involved there, but I do think it's still an issue. And I think we're still hurting those kids. But I also think we're hurting all the kids in the public school environment. There's a silent, nefarious message being sent to all kids that those with disabilities are less than, potentially reversing all the work that the culture, that the district, the staff at West in particular, that Coach Elmaker has done to foster a culture that's actually in line with the stated goals of the district. And then briefly, just an anecdote, you know, there was a TV show several years ago, The West Wing, and there's a character on it, Toby, who he had found a homeless veteran, and he felt it important to find a way to have this person have a funeral. To the president about it, and the president said, Toby, we can't have every, you know, homeless veteran that comes out of the woodwork have this opportunity to have a, you know, a special ceremony. And Toby says back to them, I could only hope, sir. And I just want to be honest, that's kind of how I feel about this issue. Yes, it creates a logistical issue. It's a hard administrative burden, but I feel like we should try to find, you know, a home and a safe, inclusive environment for kids with disabilities in our district. And I think this is a great way that that's been demonstrated. And I think it would be really regressive to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
From Benjamin Uppenhoff, and on deck, we have, I'm so sorry about how I might pronounce this. It's Christiane Olsen.
Very close.
Krishan Olsen.
Sorry.
No worries. Do you have water?
Let me get you a water.
Hi, I'm Ben Uphoff. I'm a former West swimmer and coach. I scored an inconsequential 5 points in the 1990 state championship team. I was an assistant coach for the West girls and boys from 1998 to 2001. I'm the father of 3 current Madison area swimmers, 2 boys and a girl. My oldest, Emerson, is a junior on the West swim team. He has a recently discovered genetic disorder called MED13L. This will be his 3rd year on the team. To all the girls that got cut, as a swimming community, we should do everything we can to get as many girls in the pool as possible. In principle, I'm against cuts unless there are physical constraints that would make the team unmanageable. Like many, I believe our gorgeous new 10-lane facility allows for larger teams supporting skill level, swimmers ball skill levels. To Asha and Aurelia's families, our families share a common bond, having a passionate swimmer with a disability in the Madison swimming community. I'm crushed that the district has discriminated against your girls in this manner. Emerson, Aurelia, and Asha are paving the way for inclusive athletics in Madison. I'll stand with you to ensure that what has happened here never happens again. Help correct this wrong any way I can. I'd like to voice my support of Coach Amanda. I've known Amanda through Shorewood Pool and special ed for nearly 10 years. In this time, she's provided Emerson with one-on-one special ed services, been his swim coach on and off since he was 9. She's always had his back. Amanda is a strong advocate for students with special needs, both in and out of athletics. As head manager and coach at Shorewood, Amanda rewrote the front desk job description to be accommodating to those with special needs. Because of this, Emerson has worked at Shorewood the past 3 summers and even began coaching. Aurelia joined Shorewood as an employee at Shorewood this past summer. Thank you, Amanda, for all you do for our youth. As for the district, I feel that the district is failing Asha and Aurelia and is not providing adequate due process in this matter. Department of Education states a school district must adopt procedures that incorporate appropriate due process standards. If this has happened, I am not aware of it, and I don't think anyone in this room is in the know. More transparency and better communication is necessary in these circumstances. If families are not provided with evidence as why their athletes cannot participate, this is really in violation of what the Department of Education has set forth. I would hope that the district will reinstate Asha and Aurelia until such due process has been provided and that all appeals have been completed. Thank you all for your time.
We're gonna hear from Jen Olson, pronunciation, first name, and then back we have Storm.
Hi, my name's Krishan Olson. I reached out to this group 2 weeks ago when we learned that West was potentially ending their practice of having exhibition swimmers with disabilities, in which our daughter Aurelia was taking place, was to take part. I first want to start by recognizing the MMSD vision on the website that athletics are an integral part of education, that every student deserves equitable opportunities. It's a vision that I share, both as a person with a disability, I have cerebral palsy, and of course, as the parent to Aurelia and Lucia, who's also here. I want to invite MMSD to instead join Coach Amanda Elmaker, West Athletic Director Corbin Gaines, and Volkigia in leading for Aurelia and Asha, and really by extension, all of our students. We know that students with disabilities are underrepresented in athletics in this district. The data is clear, only about 57% of students participate in extracurriculars, but your own data suggests that students with IEPs are very much underrepresented, if not quantified in the data that you share online. We know that students with disabilities face higher absenteeism and lower graduation rates. Extracurricular interventions are a proven evidence-based intervention. The law is also clear. I think others have shared that, so I won't, I'll respect everyone's time. But schools do not have the requirement to give away competitive slots, but they are required to provide reasonable accommodations. What is a simple example of this? What Coach Elmaker has done, giving non-scoring and exhibition roles to students so that they can belong, practice, and compete safely without changing the rules of the competition. Coach Elmaker has been exemplary, as you've heard tonight. MMSD should embrace, support, and fund her efforts not use tenuous legalism and frankly abject ableism to dismantle what she has put together with the students from West and the community. There are a few things that I think this board can do. You can fulfill your own policy, which if I understand correctly is policy 6491, which says that student purposes, including students with disabilities, come before community rentals or other usage of the West Pool. Keep the promise from the 2020 referendum related to the West Pool of expanding accessibility. I believe that's why it was 10 lanes and includes an elevator shaft and so on and so forth. Not just for the physical building to be accessible, but so that it's accessible to students with disabilities. I think you need to align your athletics department with a focus in the strategic framework on belonging and equity. That means that it's not just on the website, but in practice. This really isn't about winning swim meets or lawsuits. It's about all of the families here, the kids, and this district. You could be a model and follow West High's proven leadership record in swim. And I think very importantly, it's how do we respond as a district to an educator like Amanda Elmaker, who expands access in a way that's fair, that's legal, and that is in alignment with our values.
You about 40 extra seconds.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask the next speaker to come up.
Great, but I would also like for you to hear from the girls.
On deck, we have Ben Kolaj.
Hi, I'm Lucia Bergstrom. I'm a seventh grader at Hamilton, and my sister is Aurelia. When I figured out, when I started hearing what was happening, I automatically was confused, and I got to hear a lot of the stuff that was happening, and I automatically was just like, okay, this is what's happening. This is how I'm taking this. And Amanda Elmaker in my version is not somebody that I'm going to be mad at because she's obviously taken this as a situation that she's not happy in. And she's actually a teacher in one of my classes during school. So I've seen her, and in my view, and during school days, she's a very smiley person. And she just hasn't been the same she's always been. She's a lot more down, which automatically tells me she's not knowing what's going on. And I just automatically don't think that anybody should get mad at her because she doesn't know what's happening. And then I really think it's unfair that they're even cutting people off from the swim team because they made a bigger pool so that more people could swim, right? And they made it, like they adjusted it to be like usable for people with wheelchairs, people with disabilities. And I think that's really something amazing, but why are they gonna make such a new pool that costs a lot of money if they're not gonna let people with disabilities use it? That just really doesn't make sense to me. And I think it's really unfair that, so my sister has been told for about 3 years that she was gonna be on the West High swim team. And she was the happiest ever when she'd been told, like just this summer at the end of the swim team, she was so happy when she was told she was gonna be on the swim team. And actually on the last day of our Short Hills swim team, she was really upset because she was worried she wasn't gonna see her friends again. And she was really upset, and all of her friends who are now at West on the swim team came over and started comforting her and saying, it's okay, we're gonna be on West swim team, we're gonna see each other in the halls. And now that's not happening.
Thank you.
I love you, Lucia.
On deck, we have Asha Terrell. Oh,
I'm just gonna move minutes so I stay a little more on time. I'm here to speak about the issue in inclusion or lack thereof on the Madison West Women's swim and dive teams. Our whole community should be appalled by the treatment of the athletes with special needs in the team. While the process itself was handled inappropriately with almost no communication, the biggest issue at hand is the vision we have for our district and our community. Removing these students from a swim team constitutes steps backward for MMSD and Madison's manifestation of inclusion. 70 years ago, none of these women were given the same opportunities in sports as men. In later decades, families fight for the rights of students with disabilities to participate fully in school and extracurriculars. And last year, one of these students participated on this very swim team, a swim team that she's now been denied participation in. And her participation in no way adversely affected any swimmers or competition. Forget which laws may have been broken by the removal of these student athletes. Cutting these athletes from the swim team is simply a mirror of our values, of who belongs and who doesn't. West High School's decision to cut these students shows a complete lack of vision and creativity for an inclusive community we can all inhabit. This same team already has a map for how to include these students, a map which it apparently lost. Coaching and athletic staff have pointed to no specific changes this year which altered any of the conditions for participation which worked the year before. They've only vaguely asserted that the participation would change the nature of selective teams. If these students change the nature of selective teams in any way, it is for the better. You will hear from athletes, I think, in the swim program to that effect. The lack of understanding of this by the coaching staff is short-sighted, hurtful, and lacks moral character. I want us to please look deeply into the mirror that this situation holds up to us. We can't look away from this. This is who we are. So I hope we can be better.
On deck, we have raw chocolate.
Okay, here we go. Superintendent Gothard and members of the school board, thank you for listening to so many concerned students and community members about eliminating discrimination across the district. My name is Asha Shukla, and I'm a senior at West High School. For the last 2 years, I've been on the West Women's Swim and Dive team. I am fast. I hold all city records and pool records across Madison. Being part of a team makes me feel like I am part of something bigger than me, a community. I have Down syndrome, meaning my body works differently than other people. I am extra flexible. It takes a lot of energy to build muscles, and it takes a little more time to communicate with others. But I know how to work hard, and when I have a chance, I know how to win. This year, I was among the swimmers who were cut from the swim team, along with other disabled swimmers. For 2 years, I have practiced with the team using a modified schedule. As an escapation swimmer, I swim alongside, but not against my teammates without any disabilities. This respects our differences and lets us celebrate our victories together. The swim and dive team gave me a chance to swim fast. It gave me a place where everybody worked hard to understand each other. After I was cut, I was offered a chance to try out to stay on the team. I've never had to try out before, and this year I was required to try out and be held to the same time and distance standards as my teammates without disabilities. The law requires accommodations for disabled kids in the classroom. The district would not allow accommodations in swimming, and that almost guarantees I and others with disabilities cannot participate. Some leaders at the school district seem to think Aurelia and I make the team less safe and less competitive. This is not fair. The district has not shown us why they made their decision. The district has not given us any evidence of how we harm our team. The district has not offered reasonable accommodations that the law required. I worry the district's decision comes from stereotypes, not what is true and right. That is discrimination. and it is ripping away an important way for me to be a part of the school community. You can fix this. 1, reinstate the Madison West Excavation Swim Program as it existed the last 2 years for all swimmers with disabilities. 2, establish district-wide policies that support full participation in sports for students with disabilities. And 3, identify and support opportunities to expand participation in sports among all students. Victory comes in all shapes and sizes, and everyone should have a chance to win. Thank you for listening today.
We have all.
Good evening, members of the school board and Superintendent Gothard. As inspired as I am by the resilience and the courage and the community you've seen tonight, I am also disappointed. Instead of applauding the school district as a proud parent of 3 MMSD students, I find myself embarrassed by it. The decision to cut multiple disabled students without an inquiry or any attempt to provide meaningful accommodation reflects poorly on the competence of the district and risks tarnishing the brand you hope to build. When district staff, including the athletic director, justified cutting students with disabilities from the swim team, they cited federal guidelines from the Obama administration. Schools absolutely have latitude in team selection, but that authority comes with responsibility to protect students with disabilities. People with disabilities are easy to ignore. They have a harder time defending themselves, and families can be intimidated and worn down by legal maneuvering. That's why the federal government issued clear guidelines to safeguard people with disabilities. 2 points stand out in those guidelines, and I'll quote the first one. A school district may not operate its program or activity on the basis of generalizations, assumptions, prejudices, or stereotypes about disability generally or specific disabilities in particular. Our daughter was cut before a tryout, meaning the district defended that cut without really knowing what she could do or what Aurelia could do. Instead, staff appeared to allege harm based on stereotypes, or at least that is my worry. Second, this is another quote. In considering whether a reasonable modification is legally required, the school district must first engage in an individualized inquiry to determine whether the modification is necessary. We asked for documentation of that individualized inquiry required when cut and modifications were requested. To date, none has been provided. So here's what we know. The district appears to be making decisions based on stereotypes, the very definition of discrimination, and it does not appear to have conducted the required inquiry before denying an accommodation. That is the kind of negligence, bad judgment, and indifference to the rights of a protected class of students that exposes the district to legal jeopardy. It is professional incompetence in the athletic department and at each level of the district hierarchy that touched this issue and demands accountability from this board and from you, Superintendent Gothard. This isn't about one program or school. Protecting the civil rights of students with disabilities in athletics is a district-wide imperative. We're eager to help the district course correct and look forward to a day when we can be cheering on Asha and Aurelia instead of fighting for their rights in their own school. Thank you for your time.
And we have Rebecca Dance. We're hearing from Amy DeWalt.
Good evening, school board and Superintendent Gothard. My name is Amy DeWalt and I am the parent of one recent MMSD grad and a current West High School student, all our swimmer. We have been proud members of the West swim and dive community, both the men's team and the women's team. And I'm embarrassed to know that there's a scenario that's happening where the West team is not being able to provide an inclusive environment. Athletes inclusion is paramount to the integrity of student development, both for the non-disabled athletes and any athletes. It's that inclusion is paramount to knowing we all grow, we all learn, we all have depth of character. Watching the girls support Asha over the past 2 years has been amazing. She is a full and active part of the team. She is there to cheer her teammates on. The teammates are excited to walk and watch her start her races. They are excited to cheer her through her races. She is a full part of any part of the team environment if she wants to be any athlete, not just Asha, but team dress ups, team socials, team events and camaraderie. And that culture that West Swim and Dive has, it's not universal in all schools. And I would hate to lose that inclusive culture, inclusive for so many reasons. It is unique to the sport that all of the athletes practice together, freshmen through seniors, JV and varsity. No matter if you are the fastest swimmer or the slowest swimmer. My daughter started her year as the slowest, or her freshman year, she was the slowest swimmer on the team, and she still is a part of the team fully and completely, unlike many team sports where they naturally have to practice bases. I urge MMSD to do the right thing.
Becca Dan's on deck. We have Amelia Kelly.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Dans. I've spent over 10 years in MMSD as a teacher and a case manager. For 3 of those years, I had the privilege of working with Asha in elementary school. I watched her grow and thrive. And now as she enters her senior year, I am sitting here feeling heartbroken that the district has chosen exclusion over inclusion. We can be clear that Asha does have a disability, but she has also been a member of the swim team. She swam in exhibition lanes, never taking a spot from another swimmer. She found belonging, community, and pride in representing her school. And now suddenly, she is told that she does not belong. Not because she broke rules, not because she caused harm, but because when cuts were made based on times, her disability was treated as if it has erased her worth. And I need you to think about the lessons that this teaches. To Asha, the lesson is you don't belong here. You used to, but not anymore. And your disability makes you less than. To her high school peers, the lesson is you can show up for your teammate, you can advocate for her, you can understand what inclusion means, but at the end of the day, the adults in charge can still pull that rug out from underneath you. To the younger students across this district, the lesson is disability equals disqualified. Belonging is conditional, and equity can be a buzzword, not a consistent practice. And to the broader MMS community, families, educators, neighbors, the lesson is inclusion is fragile here and belonging is never guaranteed. I believe that this district wants to be a leader in equity. I believe there are people in this room who care deeply about inclusion, but equity cannot be something that you pick and choose when it's convenient. You are either equitable or you are not. Madison is one of the largest districts in Wisconsin. With that comes responsibility. The rest of the state looks to MMSD and takes notes. And right now, the note being taken is this. When push comes to shove, even here, inclusion is optional. But federal law is not optional. Equal access is not optional. And belonging, dignity, and humanity should never be optional. I know that this board may not have made this decision directly, but you absolutely have the power to influence. You set the tone for this district. You can direct your administration to correct this. You can send the clear message that in Madison, equity is not conditional and inclusion is not up for debate. So tonight, the choice is yours. Will you use your influence to model equity, or will you allow others to model exclusion on your watch? Asha deserves better, and every student in this city and across the state who is watching to see if adults will live up to their values deserves better. Thank you.
Amelia Kelly, and then we'll hear from Andy Holtzlight. I'm sorry about the pronunciation of your last name, Andy. Thank you, Amelia.
Hi, my name is Amelia Kelly, and I am a senior year at West. I am speaking to prove that Asha's inclusion has only benefited the students on the West team. I've been Asha Shukla since sixth grade, when we both attended Wright Middle School. I have been in physical education classes with her and watched her swim during the fall and summer seasons. She has made serious improvement, especially in the last 2 years. Just this summer, I watched her win 2 heats in unified races for Hill Farm Swim Team. It is also clear to me that Aurelia has been an important part of the Sherwood Swim Club's success. I have autism spectrum disorder, meaning that if I were to do a sport, I would need a specialized accommodation plan. I've struggled with both my PE classes and group sports. I see Asha as an inspiration. To think that we are denying a dedicated senior from swimming during her last year at West is heartbreaking. It is clear that creating and maintaining these opportunities has somehow become less of a priority to our district over the last year. The struggle of including these students is both the right thing to do, and in my eyes, the district's only option if they want to respect their own mission statement. Asha and Aurelia deserve better. Thank you.
We're gonna hear from Andy Schoenlight, and then we have Tyler Bruckham Polish on deck. So we have an Andy who is on South Randall. All right, and then we have Paula.
Hello, everyone. My name's Tala Flash, and I'm a sophomore at West High School. Last year I was on the West Women's Swim and Dive team, and I really, really loved the experience and especially like the community that I got from being on the team and being friends with everyone. This year I was cut from the team during tryouts in August. We found out through a sportsy post with no other communication, no emails or anything. I was devastated and I felt like I had done something wrong. I also know that there were freshmen that were not in the SportsU app that had to find out secondhand. There are a lot of confusing parts about the whole situation, but mostly how little communication was. My experience is really hard, but when I heard about Asha getting cut from the team, I was shocked. I loved being on the team with Asha last year. She was the sweetest, most kind person on the team and an amazing teammate. It is so important that we include everyone because no one should be left out of doing something they love. I have lots of friends on the team and this decision has really affected my sense of community with all of the people that I'm friends with on the team and my mental health. I think it's important for the West High team to find a way to include everyone in sports. I urge you to think about how these decisions have affected everyone who was cut from the team this year, especially with the confusing way that it was done. Thank you for listening.
Lake Salasino, and then on deck we have Amberly Wilson.
Hi, my name is Lake Valesinos. Dear members of the Madison School Board. My name is Lake Valesinos and I'm a junior at West High School. I'm here this evening to tell you about my experience with the West Women's Swim and Dive team. I have been or had been on the team for the last 2 years. And a few weeks ago, I completed tryouts and felt really good after. Then the afternoon of the last day of tryouts, I found out through a post on Sports U listing this year's team roster, that I had been cut from the team. Had it not been for this post, which I only received because I was on the distribution list last year, I would not have known that I had been cut. I've been swimming competitively for the last 9 years at Shorewood Pool, Badger Aquatics Club, and most recently at West. I'm also a lifeguard and teach swim lessons at Shorewood. So I was deeply surprised when I found out I was the only junior cut from the team this year. This has been so upsetting for so many reasons, one of them being that I still have not received any communication from the coaching staff or any concrete explanation as to why I was cut or how I compared to other swimmers that made the team. For example, we have always been told that you have to attend all 4 days of tryouts, which I did. However, there were a few girls that only attended 2 days and still made the team. I then heard that Asha and Aurelia were also cut, which was another huge surprise and did not make any sense at all to how cuts were made this year. Asha has been my teammate for 2 years since I was a freshman, and is a huge part of the team. It is heartbreaking that we won't be able to swim together this year. Overall, the cuts made all seemed very arbitrary and unfair. This has destroyed my sense of community within the swim team. It has also heavily affected me socially and emotionally. It has taken away a piece of my identity, made me question if I want to continue swimming, which really saddens me because I really love swimming and I love being a member of the West Women's Swim and Dive family. So I'm asking you as the board to think about how detrimental this is for all of the swimmers cut from the team this year, especially in the manner in which it was done. Swim should be available to everybody. Thank you.
Amberly Wilson, and then we have Ariane Gronder.
Thank you for having us all here. I'm speaking on behalf of my daughter, who is also cut from the team. Amelia is autistic and needs accommodations to be able to swim on a team. We were hoping that she would be part of this beautiful community of West Swim Team. My son Orion is a senior on the West Boys Swim and Dive team. And for the last 2 years, we've watched how lovely that community has been in supporting our friend Emerson, who has been a welcomed member on the team and has been fully included. And Orion was so excited to have his sister experience that kind of inclusion at his school. We've talked about it for months. It's been part of all of our planning. It never dawned on me that this would be a struggle, that this would be something that wouldn't be available to her. So my ask, the shaking parent, is to include as many kids as you can to make it easier for kids to be included. The other swimmers want this. The coaches want this. We should be breaking down barriers and making it easier for kids to have the experience of community that the swim team has provided. That's all I have to say.
Hi, my name is Ariane Gravander. I'm a physical therapist for the district, but I'm speaking more as Asha's friend. Inclusion benefits everyone. Inclusion benefits everyone. Community benefits everybody. Exercise also benefits everybody. The West Girls Swim Team found a way to make this happen beautifully. They are a model of what can be done in this district. Everyone was safe, competition was high, just no complaints. Yeah, so my main question is what needs to be done to allow this to continue? It was a beautiful thing.
One last public speaker here in person, and then we have a few folks who've submitted remarks in writing. Jesse, do we have anybody who's on?
Yep, we have 6 online.
All right, we're gonna hear from this last person. I'll read the written comment and then we'll shift over to you, Jesse, for folks who are online. Areli Bergstorm.
And I want to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. It says, let us swim, and that is submitted for written. We also have Daria Brokim, who said disability inclusion at West High School swim team and did not wish to speak, and we will hear from folks who are joining us online.
Thank you. Our first online speaker is Tiffany Glass.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Glass. Our son is a 10th grader at West High School. He has a dual diagnosis of Down syndrome and autism. He's been excluded from a variety of school activities because of his disabilities, and extracurricular sports and enrichment activities fall under that umbrella. This exclusion isn't unique to West High School. Our son's been excluded from extracurriculars and MMSD for his entire life at multiple MMSD schools, perhaps in part because he has advanced disability support needs. But this is a district-wide problem. It's not unique to West High School. I'm requesting updates to MMSD's district-wide infrastructure for the inclusion of students with disabilities in extracurricular activities, clubs, and enrichments, including but not limited to sports and swimming. Our family's experience has been that many disabled students in MMSD are neither offered nor receive the disability accommodations they need in order to participate in extracurriculars to the same degree as their non-disabled peers. Neither district-wide nor school-wide messaging about many extracurriculars provide information about how participants with disabilities can request the ADA accommodations they need in advance of events. Although many disabled students in MMSD have IEP team meetings, disability accommodations to allow them to attend extracurricular and sporting events or enrichment are rarely discussed at these meetings. Our son has never been part of a school club. He's never been part of a school team. He loves swimming, but because of his disability support needs and the lack of infrastructure to include students with disabilities in many sports and extracurriculars, he's never been part of a swimming team in MMSD. Specifically, I'm requesting that MMSD school events and activities adhere to, at minimum, the accessibility criteria that the City of Madison requires for events. That would align with MMSD's goals of preparing scholars for career, community, and college. To start, the City of Madison requires all event marketing materials to include contact information for disability accommodation requests. In our experience, MMSD currently does not do that, but I think it should. I think it would really help include students with disabilities in these activities. If an update to MMSD policy is required in order to accomplish this, to make MMSD events as accessible as events overseen by the City of Madison, then I would like to request MMSD to consider policy updates to accomplish this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Tiffany Sullivan. Again at the end.
Hey Jesse, I don't see her in the Zoom.
I don't see them either. I just wasn't sure if they were in person or not. We'll call them again in a second. Next, Joanne Juke.
Hello, I'm Joanne Youngke. I'm parent of two MMSD graduates. Lydia just started teaching 8th grade English in Iowa this 2 weeks ago. And then Miriam, who finished up at West this spring, and she now works at a supported employment job at the Pyle Center. And I'm so proud of the both of them. My comments today are about MMSD's vision for the athletics program as outlined on the district website. And so I'm going to quote 2 sentences. Athletics play an integral role in community building and identity of Madison schools and supports the development of commitment, reliability, honesty, integrity, accountability, and perseverance in each of our student athletes. Through participation in co-curricular athletics programs, students strive to become better students, athletes, leaders, and citizens. Okay, so I look at this and I see that we want athletics to be an endeavor in which students learn good lessons that they can carry forward all their lives. Unfortunately, the decision to abandon the exhibition swimming program for students with disabilities at West is so far teaching a whole sequence of unintended bad lessons. And I realize I'm echoing the teacher who spoke previously a little bit, but the bad lessons that I see happening here. Bad lesson number 1 is we don't have to keep our promises. Asha and Aurelia had been told they could swim with the team, and then suddenly that promise went away. Bad lesson number 2, we're the grown-ups. We don't have to explain. The decision didn't come with an explanation or a policy basis. Bad lesson number 3, when we said our vision was for athletics for all students, we didn't actually mean students with disabilities. So here's the good news. What we have here is a teachable moment. Right now, the MMSD administration and the Board of Education has the opportunity to reverse a bad decision and apologize and do better. And I get it. This is not an easy thing to do. We'd rather be right all the time. We'd rather not show weakness. We'd rather not give in. But making mistakes is human. And making things right is part of the honesty and integrity and accountability that the website says we want athletics to teach. So let's teach by example here. Let's teach the MMSD community that it's okay to change our minds when we make mistakes. And that when a community stands up and raises their voices for change, that those voices can, in fact, make things better. Let's show that it takes strength to admit when we're wrong and to apologize. And in this case, to the athletes and the parents and to Coach Amanda, who put in the effort to make the exhibition swimmers work in the first place. So we are up to this challenge, team. We're just going to need to decide that we're going to do it. We're going to need to dig deep, make it happen. You know what? We got this. We got this. Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak this afternoon.
Board Member Castro, do you mind muting?
That's not me.
It was Scott, I skipped him.
Okay.
Next is Jennifer Erickson.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Erickson. I don't have any formal prepared remarks, but I just wanted to comment as a neighbor and of Asha Shukla's and a parent of one former West High School swim team member and a current swim team member. Both of my daughters have swam with Asha the last 2 years and also swim with her at Hill Farm. She has just been, I knew WWSD before Asha, in my older daughter's early years, and then with Asha the last 2 years. And she has been such an amazing addition to the team. What she brings to the team can't be measured on a stopwatch. It's not all about times, and oftentimes it is, but swimming exhibition doesn't have to be. It's about learning and growth and being an amazing team member and friend and example. And Asha is all of that and so much more. She teaches all of the other girls so much, and they are better people and better teammates because of having her as a team member. And I know it would be the same for having Aurelia as a member as well. I had the pleasure of meeting her last Thursday evening. And I think inclusion is so important for so many reasons. And I just really would love to see the district reverse this decision and allow these very important members of our community be a part of the West Swim team. Our girls, our team wants these girls to be members of their team. My junior daughter is so sad that Asha's not currently on the team. My now freshman at UW-Madison is so upset that to hear that Asha has been excluded from swimming her senior year. We hope the district does better by these very important members of our community. Thank you.
Next is Jake Johnson. How about Austin Tierney?
Austin just texted to say he didn't get the ID that was sent to him.
Oh, I just resent it to everybody that hasn't
Okay.
yet, so hopefully he's got it in his email. Jake, same thing. Okay, I just emailed it to it. It should be like, if you click the three dots too, under my automatic message. Give it a minute.
So we have Jake who said they haven't gotten the link to participate, and one other person,
Austin.
and Austin.
Austin said he submitted written comments that you're welcome.
Okay, well, we can read our stack of written if you'd like to wait to see if the other.
This is everything I have.
Oh, the other ones are in board docs, or 24, I think. Kind of has a quick synopsis of the 24. Oh, here's Austin too, if you need him.
Okay. Are we hearing from Austin right now?
It's up to you. Do you wanna read those or do you wanna have Austin?
I think I have Austin.
Okay.
I'm gonna find them.
Perfect. It looks like, okay,
Don't know that.
perfect. Okay, I think Austin's on now. We're ready for you to speak whenever you're ready. Perfect. Okay, I think Austin's on now. We're ready for you to speak whenever you're ready.
All right, yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, yeah, I just wanted to speak on behalf of Aurelia and Asha. My daughter is on the Madison West swim team, and I.
We're ready for you to speak whenever you're ready.
All right, yeah, can you guys hear me?
Austin, you might need to mute your sound on your computer just because it's giving us feedback.
Aurelia.
Perfect.
I think he's watching it and so it's streaming, so that's the
So you might have to turn the YouTube tab off or mute it, and then you're welcome to speak.
All right, well, yeah, sorry for the technological mishap there. Anyways, yeah, I've known Aurelia for years. My daughter swims on the West Madison swim team. I think there's a lot of people have echoed all my thoughts, so I don't want to belabor the point here on a busy evening. But yeah, I really want to let them swim. That's the mantra going around. There's such an opportunity for growth here. I'm a product of the Madison Metropolitan School District since second grade. Moved back here and very proud to of the community it's been and what it strives to be going forward. So it's just my hope that we can salvage part of the season here and make some quick decisions and allow these kids, these wonderful kids who have just been a huge part of the community to have a semblance of the rest of the season here. And I can't understand exactly what is going on behind the scenes that caused this, but I really hope there's an initiative and a push to make things right here as quick as possible. There's still time. Let's the season's coming to a close here in October, November, I think, and let's give these kids an opportunity and set a new precedent going forward that gives people an opportunity to thrive no matter where they come from life and what circumstances they come from. So apologize, I didn't have a whole lot more to say, and sorry again for the technical difficulties, but thank you all for your consideration, and I'll pass it along. Take care.
Next we'll have Jake Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am the father of a current swimmer at West and a graduated swimmer from West. And I just wanted to share a beautiful story. A couple of years ago, a young gentleman joined the team. And we found out weeks later, after my son befriended him, that he was a disabled swimmer. And I just wanted to say how amazing that has been for everyone on the swim team, for everyone involved. It's a win-win-win. And not only is it a fairness thing, it's a wonderful thing for all involved to be able to understand each other. I'm a big advocate for inclusion. I served on the board of Moving Out. We build inclusionary housing for people with disabilities and their families. And it has been proven time and time again in metrics that everyone benefits by including people with disabilities. Everyone benefits, the team benefits, the school benefits, the community benefits, the families who are most concerned about this benefit. And I just wanted to share how wonderful that is. The metrics prove it. And I know that we can do the right thing. I really appreciate all of you being there, and I appreciate your time. Just wanted to share that. Thank you.
We have 24 written statements submitted for this meeting, 12 opposed to the reversal of inclusion of the swimming program at West High School, 12 in support of inclusion of special needs athletes in high school sports. I move to approve the minutes from the instruction work group meeting dated August 4th, 2025.
Second. Vanderbilt. Sorry, Savvy.
Thank you, Board Member Vandermeulen. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, motion carries unanimously. Sorry, Claire. Your advisory vote?
Aye.
All right, we have.
Point of order. Can we take a 2-minute recess?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We'll take a recess until 6 o'clock.
Where are we going? To the Santa Clark.
We have a pretty big agenda this evening, so tonight we're gonna be looking at the 2024-2025 data year in review.
Hallie, the room is still pretty loud. I can't barely hear what you're saying.
That's all right. I will repeat what I just said, which is tonight we're gonna discuss the 2024-2025 data year in review. I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. Gothard to get us started. We will also have a welcome back and launching school year conversation. Thank you. Oh wait, I think we actually lost people instead of gaining.
Chair Muldrow, I will be at your ready when you say we have quorum and we're ready to go.
So technically we have quorum right now because we have our members online and we have the two people who remain in the room. And we've got Claire, so
Wonderful.
good to go.
Well, we are excited tonight to, well, a few things. Welcome back to the 25-26 school year. It's been a great couple of weeks. And we also think it's important for us to all kind of ground ourselves as we launch the strategic plan, to do a little bit of look back, to see where we are in terms of in terms of our student achievement data, some of our other indicators, but also spend a little bit of time celebrating. So tonight, a bit of a comprehensive look at where we are, where we've been, and most importantly, where we want to go. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Stanford, to kick off tonight's presentation.
All right, thank you, Dr. Gothard and Chair Muldrow. Good evening, everyone. Before we begin, I'd just like to remind everyone that Assistant Superintendent Green and I will be co-locating instructional work meetings this year. And so I will get us started for today's meeting. You'll hear from both along with Bree Monahan from our Research Assessment and Improvement Team, or RAI. Next slide, please. As always, we want to start our meeting grounded in our vision, mission, and guiding commitments. Our work is deeply rooted in the MMSD vision. MMSD will be a learning community where all students are valued, challenged, supported, and inspired to reach their dreams. The MMSD mission: MMSD creates safe and inclusive schools, delivers high-quality instruction, strengthens positive relationships, and partners with families and the community to achieve student self-determination and educational excellence. We are also rooted in our guiding commitments to lead with equity, foster belonging, improve with purpose, embrace our collective impact, and deliver meaningful learning for every student. Next slide. The purpose of tonight's presentation is to provide the board with key updates and information. Specifically, we will review 24-25 data, share highlights from our summer programming, offer a high-level overview of our improvement ecosystem, and preview programming for the upcoming school year. We're excited to share the progress we've made and to highlight the gains achieved in several of our schools. Many of these schools also presented at instructional work group meetings last year, where they shared the intentional strategies driving their enrollment. So to begin this evening's presentation, Bree will walk us through our data.
Thanks, Carletta. So we want to orient the data presentation for tonight in the goals and metrics of the district improvement plan that the district is currently operating under. The district improvement plan, or the DIP, states that we will meet the goals of the strategic framework by realizing growth in the following metrics by 2027. So for goal 1, this is the goals of the prior strategic framework. Every child is on track to graduate ready for college, career, and community. We're looking at the metrics of increasing 10 percentage points in literacy proficiency and math proficiency, as well as looking for a 3 percentage point increase in four-year completion, high school completion. For goal 2, that's the district and every school in it is a place where children, staff, and families thrive. The performance objectives that we look at and the data that we look at for that goal is by 2027, a 15 percentage point increase in the percentage of students meeting at least 90% attendance, as well as 100% of district departments and schools having documented improvement plans. And then finally, goal 3, African-American children and youth excel in school, looking for 15 percentage point accelerated growth for literacy and math proficiency, 6 percentage point increase in 4-year high school completion rate, and 25 percentage point increase in that 90% attendance rate. So tonight we're looking at the 24-25 results, which allows us to check in after 1 year of progress from the 2023-24 data. That's the baseline that we shared from last year. Go to the next slide, please. So every time we come together to look at these data sets, we always want to ground in and acknowledge that this improvement work is really complex. Getting better at getting better requires that we work intentionally at every level of our system to plan and also regularly monitor our progress, reflect, and adjust throughout the year. So in MMSD, the way that we do that is through this organizing frame of what we call our improvement ecosystem, which is depicted on the slide at right. So I already mentioned the goals of the strategic framework, which really sets our overarching direction. Kind of think of that as our North Star, as well as the district improvement plan, or the DIP, which is a high-level plan that sort of organizes the work of our system in service of the framework goal. And then from these higher level plans, schools and central office departments write their own improvement plans that articulate more specific or granular actions and strategies that they will do to ultimately meet these improvement goals that we all share as a system. And those are the school improvement plans, or SIPs, and the central office department improvement plans, or CODIPs. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the goals that we have articulated in the district improvement plan is that 100% of schools and central office departments will have documented improvement plans to guide their work. In 2024-25, looking back, we did meet that goal of having that 100% of all schools and central office departments. We were continuing to implement SIPs. That's been a practice in the district for a long time, and reviving a practice of in central office having those aligned improvement plans. Looking back at 24-25, on the SIP side, schools adjusted plans and strategies from the multi-year SIPs that they developed in the 23-24 school year for implementation in 24-25. Also engaged in quarterly reviews of progress through principal meetings, where we reviewed data on implementation of strategies, as well as sort of leading indicators on student outcomes to inform reflection and continuous improvement. On the CODIP side, so here at central office, we developed the improvement plans aligned with the district improvement plan and the strategic framework. We got them through review by senior leaders, implemented them with adjustments based on that feedback, and reflected throughout the year. Central office also engaged in a quarterly review of progress process through the central office leadership team, as well as asynchronously on occasion. So now we're going to turn to look at the data from 2024-25, looking at student outcomes. We think of the data that we present tonight as sort of signals to help us understand whether the actions that we put forth in our DIP, our SIPs, and our CODIPs, whether we're going to be on track to meet those ultimate goals that I highlighted on the first slide by 2027. So I'm going to share data points today, one slide per metric. We're going to only present one number, which represents the overall district result for that data point. We did share disaggregations in the addendum with the board. The data slides will show bar graphs with the percentage of students meeting each metric. And where possible, we will show multiple years of data to understand how that metric has moved over time. In some cases, it won't be possible due to changes in the assessment given or changes to the assessment itself. So before I get into those data slides, we just wanted to share sort of our high-level highlights of what we saw in summary in 24-25. So at the elementary school level, we see stable or slightly decreasing trends in literacy and math proficiency, while seeing continued increases in the percentage of students meeting the 90% attendance benchmark. At middle school, we see a more consistent story of increases across metrics in math, in literacy, and in that 90% attendance metric. And then at high school, it's a little bit more mixed by grade level, by assessment in those literacy and math metrics, small decreases in 90% attendance and high school completion. So starting off with our youngest learners, it's our data on 4A literacy. This is the Ames Web letter, word, sounds fluency subtest. This is our first year of implementing this specific assessment per the Wisconsin Reads Act, creating a new baseline. We do not have a prior result that we can refer to. So in 2024-25, in the spring, 54% of students met that benchmark. Moving on to kindergarten through grade 2. Similar story here. We do not have a prior assessment that was given that is comparable to the numbers we have here. Kindergartners took the early literacy version of this test, 51% meeting that spring benchmark. Grades 1 and 2, it is oral reading fluency, and 2% of students met the benchmark in those grades. Moving on to forward, which is given in grades 3 through 8. You'll see the graphs on this slide look a little bit different. So I'll remind folks that although we've administered the forward exam for many years, in 2023-24, the Department of Public Instruction went through a revision process where they renormed the test, making prior versions of the assessment not comparable. So you'll see that on the slides. They're grayed out. They also have that wavy line indicating, yes, we have that data. We can look at those longer trends, but we should not compare the bars in the gray to what we see in the purple. But we can this year compare to last year. And in 2024-25, we see stable results at elementary school and small growth at middle school. So 47% of students in 3 through 5 were proficient or advanced on the forward exam. At middle school is 50% proficient, marking a 3 percentage point increase from last year. Moving on to forward math, you'll see some similar graphs. Same issue as before, where we cannot compare 22-23 data and past to our current data. We see small declines at elementary and small increases at middle school, sort of similar to what we saw in forward math. So 43% of elementary school students taking the exam scored proficient or advanced, down 2 percentage points from the prior year. At middle school, 43% proficient or advanced, but a change of 2 percentage points as an increase. And I'm gonna turn it over to Cindy to kind of share some data spotlight on our schools.
Thanks so much, Bree. Good evening, Board of Education and our community. While Bree indicated that most of our data is showing either stable results or in some cases some declines, we also are really excited to be able to spotlight some of our schools that have had some significant increases and promising practices that we wanted to uplift. 3 of the 4 schools, all with the exception of Crestwood that I'm going to highlight right here, are schools that are identified as ATSI and schools that are Title I. I think that's really important. It's our schools that we've been intentionally focused on with some additional resources, both financial resources and human resources to support the work of literacy and math. You might recall that Lakeview presented last November-ish around some of their intentionality around their staffing plan, where they were really working on their student services teams and ensuring that they had wraparound supports and a trusted adult for every student in their school. You can see here that Lakeview had some really exciting increases. Their overall increase for literacy, 10 percentage points. For their students that identify as Black, 16 percentage points, and students identify as economically disadvantaged, 12 percentage points. It's important to note that Lakeview is our elementary school that has the highest percentage of students that come from economically disadvantaged households. I think this is also a testament to the work we've been doing in literacy and biliteracy for the last few years and our approach to science of reading. For Blackhawk, you might recall a few years ago, Blackhawk from the state report card was identified and on the lowest performing area. Blackhawk is our middle school that had the highest gains of all 12 middle schools. The intentionality that Blackhawk put into place last year to ensure that everybody was focused on literacy, that every teacher was a teacher of reading, that they had staff supporting students both in the classroom and in small groups, I think shows in their outcome data of an increase of 12 percentage points. On the math side, I think last year was our first year that we really started to have more of an intentional focus in math, in addition to literacy. For many years, we've been prioritizing literacy, and we knew that we had to do the same for math. Anana is a school that embraced that, and Anana is a school that really focused on ensuring that they were implementing the core resource first before thinking about any other interventions. You can see it in their data. Overall proficiency rates, 8 percentage point increase. For the students that identify as Black, 20 percentage point increase. And for students that are economically disadvantaged, 11 percentage point increases. Crestwood similarly took an approach with their school improvement plan last year to focus on math as well as literacy. And I think you can see it in their data. Again, 9 percentage point increase for overall students, 10 percentage point increase for students that identify as Hispanic or Latinx, and a 19 percentage point increase for their students that are economically disadvantaged. While that N is smaller than some of the other schools I highlighted, the amount of growth that students showed is really remarkable. We're excited about the progress that our schools are making in these two areas that are our main focus for us as a system. I'm going to turn it back to Bree for a couple more slides before I do a few more school highlights.
Thanks, Cindy. So we're gonna move on to the assessment data that we have for high schools, which is the pre-ACT and ACT. First, I'll talk through reading and then we'll look at math. When we're looking at the pre-ACT and ACT, we're looking at the percentage of students who meet college readiness benchmark. So it's a little different than the proficiency that we looked at on the previous slides. So looking at pre-ACT reading, which we take in 9th and 10th grade, we're really seeing stable results from last year, 48% of students scoring college ready. On ACT reading, we see 2 percentage points of growth, up to 40% of students scoring college ready at 11th grade. And this is really exciting to see because if you look at the graph, we have many years of data here. It's kind of seen like steady declines. And this year kind of marks the first year since those declines started of an increase. So that is exciting to see. Moving on to math, it's a pretty similar story. Pre-ACT fairly stable over time, though down 2 percentage points this year. And seeing that same increase that we saw with reading on ACT up for math. So you see that ACT math up 4 percentage points to 32% of students meeting that college readiness benchmark. For the pre-ACT, it is 33%, down 2 percentage points from last year. I'm gonna turn it back over to Cindy to talk high schools.
Yes, so similar to where we did a little bit of a spotlight for our elementary and middle schools, we wanted to take this opportunity to also highlight individual schools where we saw increases. One of the things that's really important to note is for our high schools at last year's welcome back, since we're looking back at the beginning of the 24-25 school year, we spent a great deal of time working with our high school staff focused on understanding the ACT, understanding the strands within the ACT, and looking at the data from the previous year, which was something that we hadn't done with our high schools in a few years. Then our high school teams got together by course alike, and they started to plan out how they were going to intentionally embed the skill development components necessary for the ACT into their core classroom, more specifically in English, math, science, and social studies. In addition to that, we continue to focus on avid reading strategies throughout all of our schools, both in the area of literacy, but also in disciplinary literacy. And so I think what you'll see here is some of the work that our schools put in, where we saw some great results. So East High School, their overall reading rates increased by 2 percentage points, and they also maintained math rates. Black students had an increased percentage point of 4 and math 2 percentage points for East High School. La Follette had an overall reading increase of 1 percentage point and math 3 percentage points. And then for Memorial, they had an increase overall by 7 percentage points for reading and for math. And so this is really an amazing improvement for our schools. 1 or 2 percentage points on the ACT is significant. So when you see something 7 percentage points, it really shows the testament to the school's focus. I think this also goes into what we've been doing for the last few years related to our early literacy and beyond, and our focus on the science of reading, and hoping that that intentional work that we've been doing across K-12 is starting to show and have the impact on our student outcomes. Back to you, Bree.
Just have 2 more data slides for you all. So the first one is our 4-year high school completion rate. In 23-24, so we're always, this data is always lagging to the previous cohort. We just have to wait for those official numbers to come in. 87% of students completed high school in 4 years. This is a small decline from last year, and the second consecutive year of small declines. However, when you look at these graphs in 21-22, we saw a district record high, or at least a record of recent years of tracking the data. So we're really just seeing kind of a reversion back to where we were before, or right before the pandemic. So at that 87%. And then looking at that 90% attendance benchmark for K-12, this is students who are not chronically absent. They're attending school at least 90% of the time. If you're under that, you would be considered chronically absent. So in 24-25, 71% of students had that attendance rate of 90% or better. This is an area that we've seen quite evident in the graph, sustained improvement over time. So from that year of 21-22, where we first brought students back in person after the pandemic, every single year we've had an increase. It's a little bit smaller of an increase this year from last year, just 1 percentage point, but continuing to see that those numbers increase. They do look different when you break it out elementary, middle, and high, with elementary and middle school having higher percentage of students meeting that benchmark than at high school. Also seeing larger increases at elementary and middle, whereas high school, we see just a small decline from last year to this year on this metric. And I think I'm going to pass it over to Carletta to talk about attendance.
Yes. In addition to the gains that we saw with math and literacy, schools also implemented a range of strategies designed not only to address, but to improve our attendance goals. So several factors contributed to these gains, including a continuation of our district level cross-functional attendance team. And we also had schools that created school-based attendance teams as well, that focused on those intentional strategies that were identified in their school improvement plans. So as you can see here, Kennedy saw an increase of 3 percentage points overall for students meeting that 90% or above attendance. And for their Black students, they saw a 6 percentage point increase. And for English learners, a 13 percentage point increase. Cherokee as well saw an overall increase of 9 percentage points. And for their students with IEPs, there was a 16 percentage point increase, and for Black students, 26 percentage points. And so we just wanted to be able to highlight as well the tremendous work and intentionality that we saw from our schools related to attendance. Now I'd like to invite Cindy to share highlights from the many engaging summer learning experiences that were available for both students and staff.
Questions on the data?
We'll be able to talk about this entire
Okay, I just know
portion,
which,
presentation in just a few minutes.
Understood.
We'll put you as first person to be called on.
no problem. I just didn't know which way we were doing it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So these opportunities not only provided meaningful enrichment, but also helped strengthen connections, build skills, and prepare our community for a successful school year ahead. So I'm going to turn it over to Cindy.
Jesse, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So as we kind of continue to take a step back and reflect on the 24-25 school year, we wanted to make sure that we did not miss the opportunity to uplift all of the opportunities and the investments that we had from this past summer. While tonight you will only see a more by the numbers type of data, we will have impact data later in this year, as we have always done for the Board of Education, and provide a summer programming more academic report. So I just want to do some highlights. So this past summer for 4K through 12, here are some of our numbers that we had. We had 3,500 students attend our summer semester programming. And I want to highlight that we had 97 4K babies join our transition program. So those are the babies that are going from 4K into kindergarten. Sometimes we forget to highlight what an amazing opportunity. I'd also like to highlight in the space that you might not be able to see right there in the middle, 463 staff for our summer programming. 462 of those staff were MMSD staff. Only one was external. Those of you from years ago might remember that used to represent about 50-50, where we only had about 50% of our MMSD staff working in the summer, and we were recruiting externally for the other half. So that's a huge success. I'd also like to highlight that this past summer, we decided to pilot our summer semester programming at 2 community sites, East Madison Community Center and Bayview. Last year we had Bayview, but this year we added East Madison Community Center. We're really looking forward to continuing to expand those opportunities so students can go to summer programming literally in their backyard in a place that they know very well. The last one I will also lift your attention to is 4 new first-time credit courses. For those of you that have been around, you might recall that many, many years ago, we only had 2 first-time credit course offerings in the past. We used to have physical education and health. Now we have almost 15 different first-time course offerings for students, all the way from physical education to ecology, to English, to world language. And this past summer, we had 4 new ones that we were able to provide for high school. Next slide, please. Here's just a little bit of qualitative data around what our family said as it relates to summer. So we had 90% satisfaction rate for both families that were surveyed at the elementary level, and also for our middle school families that benefited from being in the high schools. This was the first summer that we had our students that were in middle school attend their summer programming at our new renovated high schools. It was a really great opportunity. Next slide. You also might recall, we talked about this a few times, but the first in the state of Wisconsin, Freedom School, and we hosted it at Mendota Elementary School. We had on our roster 50 students. We had 46 students that completed the program. We had 25 guest readers that participated in Harambe. Some of those were the mayor of Madison, the superintendent of the MMSD school district, and many other community members that came in and read to our students and participated in our morning routine. We had 4 community dinners. So part of the goal of Freedom Schools is to ensure it's a community-based approach. And so we had 4 community dinners where we invited community partners, families to join us. And then they had weekly field trips. The success of this program was just unbelievable. We're super excited for the expansion for the upcoming summer based on what the Board of Education has already approved. So looking forward to sharing more. Next slide. Summer arts. You might recall that this originally started as an investment with ESSER funds, and we were able to use ESSER funds to provide experiences for our students during the summer. We have since been able to sustain that with prioritizing our budget to ensure that we're able to have these offerings. 1,700 students in our elementary and middle schools received Summer Arts Explore. That's the afternoon portion of their full day programming. We also had band and orchestra lessons. Over 375 students were able to take advantage of that, an increase from 125 students in 2024. So the word is getting out. And then we have SEATS programs where we really worked with our community partners. We had 7 programs that were offered. We had over 100 students that were able to take advantage of arts community programs throughout our city, and we really prioritized our students of color. Next slide. You've heard a little bit about this before also, but we were able to increase discovery camps, which is our career technical education camps. We had 23 that were offered this past summer. You can see the list there. We had 295 students. 39 of our schools had students that participated. Engineering, design, we had coding and robotics, we had the skill trades, electrical and plumbing, discovering video production, a whole host of opportunities for students to be able to explore and gain experiences in these areas to see if it's something of interest that they might want to participate as they go into high school and be able to ensure that they take our high school coursework related to this. Next slide. Those CTE discovery camps would not be possible with some of the industry partners that are listed up here. This is not an exhaustive list, but it's really important to note that these individuals were contributing to ensure that students either had the industry partner able to provide the experiences, whether they created the spaces for us or some of their resources. So it's really important that we uplift these and the other individuals that helped make our 23 discovery camps possible. And while what I just focused on was all about our students, we also had a variety of adult learning experiences for our staff. While our students are thriving and learning, we know it's really important to ensure our staff have opportunities to cultivate their own learning and build their capacity. So we had a 2-week principal and AP summer learning series. We did it differently for the first time this year. We've heard from our principals about what it means for them to engage in their own learning and when that learning should take place. So we made adjustments to that. We had 12 asynchronous courses. You can see a list of some of those courses. And then we had 66 instructor-led courses, all the way from early learning up through technology. And the impact on that was we had 98 staff complete certification in developmental designs. We had 212 attend our Culture and Climate Institute to really launch the school year. We had 144 people attend our attendance summit, which goes back to what Carletra highlighted around our growth in attendance. And over 1,500 staff attended and or completed a summer course. So the impact for our staff for the summer was absolutely huge. Next slide, please. Okay, so that just gives you a step back into what we did in the 24-25 school year. Chair Muldrow, I will turn it back over.
Thank you all so much for that presentation. Before we dive into board member questions, I want to ask our administration what would be most useful in terms of feedback or questions from board members this evening. And I'm going to pose that question to you, Dr. Gotham.
Thank you, Chair Muldrow. I think in addition to what was presented, you also received some data that's in an addendum. So you have a lot of information before you tonight, a ton. I think, you know, in deference to the time you want to spend, I think I would imagine each board member kind of has an area that they might be more interested in or have a higher priority question. So maybe start there. And you know, we're all here to respond to questions or to receive feedback.
All right, thank you very much. Board members, this evening, I'm going to try something different. So I will let folks know what time it was when they started asking questions and what time it is when we move on to the next board member. With that being said, I will turn it over to board member Vandermeulen, who will be our first person asking questions this evening.
Yes, I appreciate that. My questions are very simple. Is there a reason why individuals with disabilities only measure? We got the data and I love that we had the data, but we only highlighted it in attendance. Next time, can we just try and see a more detailed picture? That's my specific comment. My my statement is as follows. I am thrilled with the work that has been done in middle school. Our stats show it, our people show it. I think Angie Hicks has done an amazing job. I remember talking to her years ago when we first started about middle school, about how we were going to get it, not just attendance up, but get our kids actually engaged. I'm just very happy. Also poured Whitehorse today. got to see the CTE lab exactly today, and got to see some of the things we advertised just now. I got to see the 3D printers with making mini robots. I thank Principal Wiederrath for that tour, but I get to see the mini robots. I got to see all of the CTE stuff. To be honest, I'd love to take one of them. So that ends my remark.
Nikki, did you want the administration to respond to the first question you asked? All right, you started at 6:35 and you're done at 6:37. Board President Nichols.
Wow, that's gonna be hard to follow. Thank you, Chair Muldrow. I have some questions that are more like about orienting to the data, just based on some things that I observed, not in the PowerPoint, but more in the addendum. But at first, before I go there, let me just say I really appreciate the presentation, and in the addendum, I definitely appreciate seeing some board members' requests for how the data should be disaggregated being included. So I appreciate seeing students with IEPs and twice exceptional listed in the data. So these are a little bit technical in nature, but I think it would help me to better understand the data. When I look at the forward results, I noticed that in grades 3 through 5, ELA, in 24-25, we note that there were 2,446 students for 24-25 in ELA. And I just want to confirm, that's the number of students who
met the metric.
Who met the metric.
Who are proficient or advanced.
Okay. And so, thank you for that. And, okay, and so then on the following page where we look at the grades 3 through 5 in math, that number would be different because a different number of students, proficiency benchmark for math proficiency.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. So now I'm gonna just stay with forward for a moment. When I look at ELA, and I'm looking at the two columns where we're comparing 2023, 24, and 24, 25. No, we're not comparing necessarily, but they're side by side. For ELA, with the exception of Asian students, English learner students, and twice exceptional, it's almost like the students performed the same. And yes, I'm curious about how to look at this data, because I'm assuming because of the grade bands that are included, some of the students that are in 2024-25 were also students that took the exam the previous year, but they're not all the same. But do you have any idea of why the percentages look either the same or they're only 1% off, with the exception of the few student groups that I mentioned? Is it something in the test that changed this year, or is it just how students performed on the exam? And it might be an answer that a question can't be answered.
I mean, we see at the overall level that it's a very similar number of students being the metric and the exact same percentage. So you would expect to sort of see that look pretty similar when you disaggregate the data as well. Yeah,
But like with English learners, for instance, that group not only doubled in number, it was 85 students who met the proficiency benchmark in 23-24. It's 165. I would expect that percentage to change accordingly. But do we have any thoughts around what helped so many English learners increase proficiency from one year to the next?
Yeah, I think the stability that we named is consistent, right? Second year of the way that this assessment has been normed at the state level.
Okay.
But I think I can make some assumptions about where we are with English learners, and then I think also what we did around individual schools of what we know with strategies. But we're in year 2 last year with new material specific for our English learners. If you remember, the Board of Education, the year after they approved the adoption of the K-5 literacy materials, we had for the first time intentional resources to support our English learners, English language development. So I think that's one thing. I think that we also have made a focus to ensure that our schools are using the WIDA standards that the state requires that really help them hone in on language development as well. I think those are two kind of what I could say key system-wide strategies that we have really worked on. Becky Kundert, who's sitting over there in the audience, her team has been super intentional about the professional learning that's needed. We've even started to provide additional professional learning for coaches for their DLI classrooms so that they can also focus more intentionally about where the things are the same and where they're different around a language immersion program versus kind of monolingual program. So I think there has been some intentionality around our focus for English learners. I think we're getting more clear on who our English learners are and the data that we get from Access to also know where we need to double down on, where we've seen what we call long-term Ls and how we're really trying to do a better job while the students are K-5 to build those language skills. So I think those would be a few things that I could name that we did over the last year, really, as it relates to English learners. I don't know if I could say why in other areas we've seen kind of stability, not increase or decrease, because we have really made some focusing on core instruction, standards-based learning. So I think when you look at individual schools, it's exciting to see, but when you see across the board the stability, I guess I could say, I think we're on the right track. We need to stay the course because we're not decreasing, but we're also not at them.
Cindy, the only thing I would add is that, it's just a quick back mapping here and, looking at grades 3 through 5, you go backwards, assuming last year's 24-25 or 5th, 4th, or 3rd and go back. That's a very different experience for pre-K or kindergarten as well. Perhaps not even having it. So we're going to see, there's going to be I think it's going to take some time to get a trend that we can really stand behind as well, just in terms of making sure, that we've done this, with great fidelity from pre-K on. It's one of the reasons we're working so hard to make sure every child gets into full. So again, for me to say that that's why, no, but I think it has to factor.
Great, thank you for that. I do have one other question, and then I have a suggestion on these slides. And maybe it's just me, but when you show all students on like these forward exam charts, and even the pre-ACT, the ACT, all the data charts, to me, it would be helpful to see what was the number of students total who took to the exam. And then the all students are the students who met proficiency. Because I think without that, it could be easy to read the all students as the total number of students who took the exam, not who met proficiency. So that would just be one piece of feedback. For the Ames web, which is going back into 4K and kindergarten through 2nd grade, what time of the year is that given, or is that given multiple times?
So, sorry, let me turn. So Ames Web first time this year or last year, due to Wisconsin Reads. And this is based on the end of year, and the end of year per the state happened right around spring break. So you would think that it would happen more in May, which is when we would do our early literacy assessments, but we had to follow the state window based on this kind of back mapping of when you have to do all these components for Wisconsin Reads Act 20. And so this winds up happening just around spring break.
And then did the kiddos have another, did they ever take another, not that I would want them to, but did they take another version of that same assessment after spring break?
Only students that would take our Fast Bridge where they would take it in Spanish, but no, that is the end of year assessment based on the state required timeline.
Okay. And is it an assessment though that it has a beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year?
Yep, 3 times a year.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then I think the only other thing that I was wondering about is, this is going to the ACT data. I know some years ago, we had started to talk about, at least when the district was really committed to Black excellence and goal 3 of the previous strategic framework. There had, Bree, you'll probably remember this, we were beginning to have a conversation about the intersectionality of multiracial identities and how students whose parents may be indicating that they're multiracial also identify as Black, that they're not enrolled solely as a Black student. I don't know if I'm articulating that well. And so my wondering is I know that these categories of racial identity are oftentimes set by the state or the feds. And parents are oftentimes enrolling their children and selecting their children's identity. But have we, or are we able to look at data in a way to better understand the students who are in the multiracial line and how many of those students may identify as multiracial with a Black parent, or who identify as Black? Because the only reason I say that is because when you look at some of these ACT lines, unfortunately, for many of our students who are identified as Black, the proficiency numbers are, really low. And then when you look at multiracial, the numbers are higher. And I think in some of those multiracial students, some of those students are identifying and walking our schools as Black students, but they're not showing up in the data this way. So I don't know if there's a way for us to do anything with the data that's a little bit more nuanced.
So, we can definitely provide that data in a follow-up. We still have the ability to kind of disentangle. The multiracial is a calculated field based off of, on the enrollment form, selecting multiple racial categories. So we can still do that. I think the movement to presenting the data with the sort of the standard categories that the state and federal government uses was sort of just part of that alignment with the presenting the data that way, like, and how we set up the DIP and the strategic, the SIP and all of that. So wanting to be able to have the data be checkable against what's on the public sites, but we can definitely still pull that and provide it.
Yeah, and I respect and understand that, and I know that's something that we have to do with data for, kind of requirements with state and state expectations. I also think when we don't dig more into the multiracial identity line, we're kind of doing a disservice to many of our students who would be identifying as in one of the other categories. And yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Board President Nichols. You started at 6:38. It is now 6:51. And I saw Student Representative Claire as our next person.
Thank you, Chair Muldrow, and thank you for the informative presentation. So I just have some questions on the addendum, just for the sake of understanding it. So for the ACT scores, 2020 to 2021, those taken online since because of COVID? Do you?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, all of the ACT has been paper pencil with the exception of this year. Memorial High School was our first high school to transition to the fully like online version, but when even during COVID, we had to have cohorts of students come in throughout the building, and so they did it paper pencil.
Okay, awesome. And then, so the ACT is test optional, so I'm wondering, like, for your percentages, where did you put those test optional numbers, or did you just?
Means students who did not test.
Yeah. Does that count as like not being considered already, or?
So they're, if you did not test, you're not included in the numerator or the denominator.
Okay, I see. Okay, and then these ACT scores, were they from that one time the juniors take it? Or if someone goes and retakes it on their like schedule, does that mean that score you guys could see and put it into this, or it's just from the time the juniors take it?
That's a great question. I'm gonna need to check on that and get back to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Board member Mosmer Saltham.
Thank you. Thank you. This was great, really informative. I want to especially appreciate all the disaggregated data here. Is really great, and congratulations to the schools that you highlighted. Those are some really, really exciting, just exciting outcomes at the schools that you highlighted. And I want to congratulate all of the staff and students at those schools, and I won't go school by school. Really, really nice work. I appreciate Board President Nichols and Student Representative Lee's questions about the students who didn't take these tests. And I would love to see that in future data presentations. Because I think it tells us a lot. Recently I looked at data and discovered that like 50% of Black students who might have taken the ACT, this is not in medicine, didn't take it. Some of them are officially opted out and had parents call, and some of them didn't take it in other ways. And I think that would be a helpful way to understand what this data tells us about what students' skills are like. I also want to really appreciate you highlighting adult learning in the summer, and I'm looking forward to continuing to look at how our professional learning works and how it's going, and I am excited to hear that there was a change to something that's people requested, and hopefully it's gonna be better. I have two questions. One is about, and I like going grade level by grade level or grade band by grade band versus like cohort groups. And if you think about that and what you think about that, and yeah, what are your thoughts about looking at the data that way versus by grade level?
I mean, that's a really interesting question, and it's not how we've looked at like the accountability data, which is essentially what this is, because we just want to make progress on each of those metrics. It's internal reporting that we've done before, and we don't do it every year, but we'll do it from year to year. I think now, because we have 2 years of the forward exam, we're in a position where we can kind of look at least those 2 years of cohort growth. And I think that's something that we're interested in doing as a team, but making sure that this stuff was done first.
For sure, I completely respect that. I'm just curious about what that would tell us. And then my last question is about the goals from the DIP, the high level district plan, and the goals that were set 2 years ago, I think. That's +10 in literacy, +10 in math, like that stuff. And I'm wondering if we have a new strategic plan in development. And now have had a few years with your team sort of like stably focused on these goals. And I wonder what you can tell us about how that process with these goals is shaping your thinking about what goals might be going forward.
You wanna start? Sure. Talk about it.
We, it's an excellent question, and I would say it's a it's a question that we are in the process of discussing internally. We're trying to both determine kind of when the new performance objectives come into play as a district and how we sunset the current performance objectives and what the future baseline will look like and how we are going to set targets and all of that. So the answer is to be determined, and we're excited to actually bring it to the Board of Education sometime probably this fall before it is finalized. We've been working closely with myself, Bree's team, other members of the strategic framework planning and RTI to begin to put a plan. So it's probably not the exact answer you were looking for. We're working on it. We just don't have a solid plan yet of which direction we could go, and we'll bring it to you.
Sure, I wasn't asking for the details
Yeah.
of that. I was just sort of asking sort of like, having done this, what did you learn about goal setting for the future? But we can also talk about that when it comes to the board. Sure. That's it for me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Player President. Started at 6:54 and ended at 6:58, and now I see Board Member Saravo.
Thank you, Board Member Miljo. When looking through this is my first time to take a snapshot over the full year, so some of the things I was wanting to talk about are a little bit more broad. Today when we started though, I was like really focused on what our mission is, guiding commitments. I really want to make sure that that is felt and highlighted through everything that we do. With that, I did want to echo some of what Board Member Vandermeulen and Board Member Nichols had said about what we see in some of the data points. Like there's the addition of the advanced learners, economically disadvantaged learners, students with IEPs, twice exceptional. I really like all that stuff is there. When I'm looking at this, it's difficult to follow trend in the way that it's currently presented. It would have been helpful for me to have something that's more like a scatter plot or something like that, where it's a little bit more visually representative of like which way data is trending. And I don't know if this is just overall, but there are so many acronyms. It is very hard to catch those. And I don't know if I can make this request, but I'm just, if there's an acronym, if we could asterisk it on the bottom, and I don't know if I need to say this in front of everyone, but just to put something there, just so it's easier. I guess, this is what's presented towards the public too, so everyone can actually understand what we're talking about. And it's honestly gonna be easier for me to catch on to the different types of information that's being presented. Because there's a lot of acronyms no matter what. Yes. I would have really liked to see more of the students with IEPs reflected in here because there's a lot of intention behind it and a lot of individualized programming. I like the spotlight on our schools was about ELA math and has the specific schools down there. I'm actually not sure like where, like it's great that that data's going up, but I also don't know where the baseline was. So it looks like we're doing we're doing a lot of good work. And there's a lot of people out there doing that work. I guess I have one question when it comes to like summer programming is if there is something in the future where the students that don't quite fall into the ESY programming and yet don't have support for summer school, are we gonna get to that point where that becomes an option?
You say students that don't.
That don't qualify
Fine.
for ESY technically,
Yeah.
but we need some support in order to attend summer school.
Okay, outside of kind of just the openness that they have right now to go, but might need more. Yeah, some support.
Yeah.
I think that's a great comment. I think we saw with our freedom schools this summer, really great success of a number of students that needed more hands-on support. We had a student that identified as nonverbal that was able to attend, so I think opening up kind of this host of different options over the summer, I think allows for more students to be able to access, and I think we will continue to think about whether it's summer semester or other things to look at. You know, ESY is really specific, right? It's for, compensatory services, so thinking about opportunities for all students to access some other type of programming this summer, I think is important for us and something I think we'll continue to look at and explore.
And specific, that would be that the district would have to get in order to move that forward as like an initiative. Like, do you need to see something? Do you need more data in order to find out how many families would be taking part in that?
I'm not sure, actually. Maybe, I think it also is staffing and funding for programming. And I think we always try and staff, especially with our skilled certified CC teachers, always staff first for ESY. And so, yeah, I don't know that hearing from, I mean, it's always important to hear from families, but I don't know if that's the starting point. I think it's us continuing to look at where we have gaps in the summer and what we think is what we want to continue to expand on to ensure every student has it. We're gonna come back in some other time, I think maybe January, to talk about summer programming, so between now and then, maybe we'll be able to present some other opportunities that will be beneficial for students.
I think the only other thing I had on here was there was 7 arts community programs. I was just wondering, is there a list somewhere? Well, there was a whole bunch of lists on here of what the other programs were.
Yeah, we can absolutely get it. It was community-based programs. It was ones that our community artists hosted. One was a dance program, one was more sculpture, but we could get a list of the 7 community-based programs and share with the board. Sure.
Yeah, I like knowing what's out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Thank you, Board Member Saravo. You started at 6:59. It is now 7:04. Board Member Castro.
Thank you. I've got 2, maybe three questions. One similar to Board Member Mosner, Feltham's questions about the big district goals for 2027. We are year 1 into that, and if I remember correctly, those growth goals were calibrated using a model of some internal software that we use based off our reading and math materials, if I'm right. And so I was wondering, in addition to our question on if we want to recalibrate those goals, but if they are so far kind of adhering to the, what we have before us, if that's adhering to the model's expected growth. And then my second question is, having been in the first year of Ames Web, kind of what are the pros, cons, and challenges to implementation so far?
You want to take the first one?
Sure. I would have to go back and look exactly at how we forecasted out those goals. I know that goal setting piece is always a little bit of looking at past trends to the extent that we can, and also a little bit values based. But I have to look back at that. I mean, I think it's sort of a mixed bag across each of the metrics. Like I think we're sort of with the growth in attendance, kind of on the right track. The middle school data is on the right track. I think seeing sort of stability in some of the elementary school data means that there's more to accelerate in the next few years in order if to meet those goals. But I have to look back specifically on how those specifics were determined. But I think the results that we have from 24-25 are really interesting because there's some really positive growth and some areas where I think we'd like to see more. So I'm not sure if that fully answers your question, but I will look into it.
Got it. Thank you.
I can start on the Ames Web question. You asked pros, cons.
Yeah, pros, cons, lessons learned during the first year of implementation. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will say one of the biggest pros was as a state, you are not required to assess using Ames Web until the middle of the year. As a district, we chose to start at the beginning of the year. We wanted to ensure that we both worked out the kinks with the individualized or the personalized reading plans as well as the assessment. The probes are similar to what you see in FastBridge, so there's some consistent measures for our students and our staff. I think the cons are the reporting system is less intuitive. The ability for teachers to see the data right there in the moment is not possible. We still have to use FastBridge in Spanish as the state had only required Ames Web in English. So kind of toggling two assessments. It's a more antiquated reading assessment. They're working on some updates. Most of those updates are coming from our school district, feeding them what needs to change. So that's a little in short. I hope that gets to what you're looking for in terms of pros and cons.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'd be interested in learning more as it develops as districts try to, live in an Act 20 world now and potential feedback for DPI and all that.
So, well, one last pro, and then Ali can cut this from your time, is that we started with 4K this spring, and so now we have a consistent measure 4K 3 or really 4K 5. So that piece is exciting that the state required 4K, and so in the past we've had different measures for 4K than we have for K5. So I would add that as a plus.
All right, thank you. That concludes my time.
Thank you very much, Board Member Castro. You started at 7:05. It is now 7:09, and we will hear from Board Vice President Pearson.
Hey, good evening, y'all. Sorry I couldn't be there with y'all in person. I just had to Savian's last question about the Ames Web. I know Cindy, you had mentioned earlier that there is we do our own assessments for 4K in kindergarten in May, and this test is in April-ish, right? And so are we going to be looking to possibly somehow utilize our data kind of as a check balance for that?
Sorry, let me clarify. In May, we used to assess for early literacy in May. In May now, we do our Spanish for our students in our DLI program and our math screener in May. Only the English, and grades 4 through 5, we push back that timeline. But for grades 4K through 3, in English literacy, we have to assess in March, April, based on the state timeline. So we start with those grade levels and that content area first, and then we extend the assessing for math Spanish literacy in grades 4 and 5 to what we believe is the appropriate end of year timeline.
Okay. Okay, I think I understand what you're getting at. Yeah, I just asked that question because I know in the as we were doing the new strategic framework, I know we all discussed about just making sure that we have different ways to measure things and that we're just not only solely focusing on just the standardized testing. And I think my colleagues raised some of my other questions around that, but I guess when I'm looking at the literacy where it says literacy college readiness when we're using the pre-ACTs for the ninth and 10th graders, I'm looking at like the actual hard data. And what I'm noticing is that I know in the past we had more concentrated efforts to kind of get more students of color to take the ACT and the pre-ACT, and we in the past have made large investments in that to try to encourage students and help students, I guess, do pretty well or decent on the test. Are we also looking to continue those type of investments? Because I'm looking at the hard data of who's taking the test. And there's a couple categories that are really far below of compared to their peers. So, and as you can imagine, it's Black and brown students, more specifically Hispanic and Latinx students and Black students. So, yeah, I like to hear about that and what investments are needed to continue increasing that number as we have over the years.
Yeah, so a few years ago, we, using ESSER dollars, had invested in students, specifically students of color, and we paid for them to take the ACT prep course a few years ago. We don't do that right now. And we also tried to run an ACT prep course during the school year at our 4 comprehensive high schools. That did not run this year for a few reasons. We weren't getting the number of students to sign up for that. And so I think that re-looking at that and why and what the advising is for students and how we advertise that is something that we absolutely have to explore. We did run summer semester ACT prep, and all of those filled up over the summer. And so we had that as a first-time credit option for students. And then I would say the other thing, at least last year, and I think what we're continuing to do, is embedded into the regular core classrooms more intentionally. And that was really kind of the first time we did that was last year when we started our welcome back, and teachers really thinking about the explicit skills that students need at 9th grade, 10th grade, leading up to also the ACT in our English courses, because that's a pretty consistent course that kids have to take, and in our math and our social studies. So those are a few that we have tried. I think the continuation of what else is going to meet the needs of our students, whether it's rerunning this ACT course on the books during the school day, during the school year, is something that I know that teams have discussed and are interested in exploring. And then I think the summertime as well. We have a couple partners that we work with that offer like seats for our students and privileged students through scholarships as well for additional ACT prep. And that's something that we've been more intentionally talking to at least one of the community partners about they want to expand and how we could partner with them. So I would say that's one other thing that we've been in conversation with.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I guess my last thing I'll just say is looking forward to how we can how this aligns like moving forward with like the measures with our new strategic framework and how we're kind of looking at that. I know we'll get updates later with KPIs and such like that. And then also just, how we're preparing students, not just, not to like take standardized testing, but just over general, like how we're preparing students just to think critically as they're doing their work, and kind of using that throughout all their courses. so that, you know, in the future, as, you know, some universities are coming back to ACTs and SATs, but many have still, you know, stayed away from using those as a basis for entry. Then how are students then also encouraged to continue their learning critically and being able to utilize those skills across all courses? So thank you so much. That's it for me.
Thank you, Board Vice President Pearson. You started at 7:09. It is now 7:16. I'm going to add myself to the staff. And my first question is for you, Dr. Gothard. We saw a lot of things to celebrate in this presentation. I'm sure many members of our community are wondering how you feel about the results of your first year.
Thank you. This is just such a snapshot and such a small piece of what we're illustrating is important. This is a way for us to, if you will, you know, you think about a diagnostic when you take a car to a garage, get a few things looked at, and sometimes they say, you know, we got to go a lot deeper here. This is that. These are those indicators that have long screamed out to us for years, and MMSD and the other two districts have led in terms of some of our lagging indicators that tell us we have a lot of room to improve. But the celebration is that there are some schools in there that are beating the odds. There are efforts in there that are new and exciting and engaging. And I think all that starts with, and all that momentum, you know, can lead us through a new strategic framework into a way where we can predict success. That's where we want to get. We want to be able to see that our resources from the community, our investments in our strategies, and our outcomes are proving that we're on a track that we can predict success. Because far too long in this work, it's predicted the lack of success. For year in, year out, we know what the data is going to say. You know, of course, I feel really good about some of the things we've been able to establish. There have been some schools in our community that have really been hurting as well. One of the things I'm very proud of is, you know, we had 2 principal retirements, very much due, you know, they were due, and 1 principal change. You know, that kind of stability, consistency, that's something we need to build as well. I know because I followed it from afar that there were a lot of changes in the last 5 years. A lot. You know, folks I didn't know, but I knew just because there were always new names. So that kind of consistency, continuity with staff, with principals, with communities, can also lead to just a new baseline for us to jump off from. So those are some of the things that I'm most excited about. I think the summer work is important as well. I see that number at 3,500. That's higher than I remember it from my previous work here, and that's one that we want to continue to build. And of course, I can't say enough about our efforts in 4K and making sure that the community understands that it isn't just something we want to do, it's something we want to promise to our community, that for every child, every family who wishes to have access to 4K, we're able to accommodate for that. And I can't thank our school communities enough for some of the moves we had to make. You know, this year we have 134K at one of our schools because the other one was, you know, didn't have room. And the principals and the staff, you know, we're able to do that. And it tells me that we're focusing on the right things, the needs of our students to be successful. So those are just a few things. You know, we still have plenty of work to do. The data definitely demonstrate that. But that's why I'm here. I'm here to work with the community, work with our staff to improve.
Thank you so much for your answer, and thank you for emphasizing staff stability as part of your answer. I think for those of us who have been doing this work for a significant period of time, the stabilizing impact of your leadership and approach to our staff and the morale of the folks who are working for us obviously has meaningful results when it comes to the achievement of our young people. So thank you very much for all you've done over the last year and all the people who are working behind the scenes to make these opportunities possible for our young people. My only real question is about ACT math. And what I'm wondering is, can we get data on where our students are at in terms of the courses they're taking in math when they take that test? So what percentage of our students have completed algebra, geometry, trigonometry, algebra 2, pre-calc, however we want to think about that. Are our students actually taking the classes they need in order to be successful on this test? And I would really like to see a demographic breakdown of that and a gender-based breakdown of that. Does that make sense to you all? And is that something you can provide us?
It absolutely makes sense. I will say that I think Bree will probably have to talk to her team to see what's possible, but I mean, the question and the ask makes sense.
Yeah, it's a super interesting question. I think our team would be excited to kind of dig into that a little bit more. It's definitely feasible. I know the coursework data can be a little bit more complicated to work with than like the assessment data that just comes nice and neat in a file. We can definitely look into that.
Yeah, I just think that that gap is significant, and I think that it's not just reflective of what our students are capable of, but also the opportunities our students have had access to throughout their learning. And I think that there is a variety of dynamics informing that, and I would love to see us dive into it so that we can resolve it. The last thing I want to say is something I want to celebrate, and I would like Jesse to pull up slide 25, summer arts by numbers. I just want to say that it is really profound to me that we have continued to do this work, that we have figured out how to sustain this work, and that we are also growing this work. And I hope in the long run, we realize that the impact of having more and more students enrolled in band and orchestra means that our students are more successful academically overall. And so thank you all for investing in these opportunities and the integrity of these opportunities and letting them be meaningful to our young people, and making it possible for a lot more children to get to participate this past summer. I can't tell you how much that means to me. And with that said, I started at 7:18, I'm done at 7:23. Thank you all so much for this presentation. We will move on to our next area. So we got to look a little bit at the past this evening. We are now gonna hone in and focus on the present. And I will turn it over to you.
Yes. So we are going to go into our improvement ecosystem, bright spots. So as we continue our intentional planning for 25-26, you can go to the next slide, sorry. Want to highlight these key successes from our improvement ecosystem through both our school improvement plans or our SIPs and our central office department improvement plans or our CODIPs. We've established a more disciplined and aligned and reviewed approach to continued improvement in the district. And some of those bright spots include more streamlined and clearly defined strategies, which we'll talk a little bit about on the next slide, along with more detailed quarterly action plans that schools implement as part of their SIP, that have resulted in sharper, more focused plans overall. And in addition, we have stronger cross-functional coordination through our CODIPs that have allowed departments to better align their supports to the school SIPs, ensuring that the central office actions directly reinforce the SIP priorities. Next slide. And as we reflect on the progress made, we want to share a high-level overview of example strategies from our school improvement plans. Looking ahead, we will continue to prioritize the strategies that not only demonstrate measurable results and impact, but also align with our current strategic framework goals. And again, I want to say the current strategic framework goals. In areas where momentum and individual gains have been highlighted, it remains essential to maintain that focus while also allowing schools to make thoughtful incremental adjustments as needed. The literacy and math strategies that you see here emphasize the implementation of high quality grade level curriculum that ensures every student has access to rigorous learning. These strategies also highlight the intentional use of data analysis to inform instructional practices and decisions, identify student needs, and monitor progress over time. Equally important, they reflect a commitment to staff co-planning and collaboration, creating opportunities for educators to learn from one another, align practices, and strengthen instruction across classrooms. Next slide. The SIP strategies focus on attendance and high school completion, emphasize the intentional use of data analysis to design, implement, and monitor systems that directly support these critical goals. By leveraging data, schools are able to identify trends, target intervention, and track progress over time, ensuring that every student receives the support they need to attend consistently and stay on track toward graduation. These strategies also foster stronger coordination between school teams and central office teams as far as our resources and creating a comprehensive system of support that address the barriers and promotes equity and drives measurable improvements in both attendance and high school completion rates. Next slide. Yay. As we launch the 25-26 school year, our focus remains firmly centered on the key strategies that drive progress toward our district goals. We're committed to a continuous cycle of improvement, reflecting, refining, and building on what works to ensure that every student has access to rigorous, engaging, and equitable learning opportunities. The programming that you will see in this video represents just a sample of the initiatives designed to advance our mission and deliver our commitments to all students. While not an exhaustive list, these examples showcase the intentional ways we are working to strengthen teaching and learning, foster innovation, and create supportive school environments. So we are excited about the year ahead and the opportunities that it holds for staff, students, families, and MMSD. And so with that, let's continue.
All right. Questions from board members? Board member Mosner Falcon.
Thanks. Well, that was great. It was so great. Everything. Great. I have two questions. The SIPs happen and then the co-dips, or they happen simultaneously? Or they kind of happen and then respond and then.
So the co-dips help to support the SIPs, but we also have the dips, right? That's the district improvement plan.
Right.
And then the central office department improvement plan, and then the school improvement plan.
Right. So my question is, let's say a school leadership team sits down and is developing their SIP, and there's a set of sort of parameters that flow from the district improvement plan. But then there's also a set of strategies that are more specific to the school. Does the central office, does the co-dip respond to the SIPs, or do the SIPs respond to the code?
So it's. So I actually think of it like this, think of the dips at the top, and then the sips and the co-dips are parallel.
Got it, okay.
Right? So if you think about both of them feed into the dips, this is what the school is doing in order to achieve this, and this is, I would actually kind of say like the dips are kind of like a arm two different ways, because the dips also think, how do we support the schools and the SIPs, but also still feeding from what the dips.
Okay.
I'm just
So
gonna show you.
if you go to,
no,
sorry,
please.
slide 7 is a visual. Yeah. So you'll be able to see that they sit side by side.
Okay, cool. The reason I ask, is I myself have been a part of SIP planning, where we have like the SIP that we give to the big boss, and then like the SIP that we do to like respond to the needs of our school. And I don't know what to say about that, right? Like that has happened in times when the like parameters aren't responding to the needs of the school. And so I guess and I understand that has, there have been major improvements in that sort of dynamic over time. So nice work on that. My question, I guess, is about how, what kind of feedback you're getting from schools as they develop their SIP. There, 2 years ago, you went to the plan for learning. Is that going well? Like, what is your evidence? Please reassure me that the process right now is really working for building level leadership.
So the plan for learning is really just the software that we use, the software that we use to store the information. I think that the feedback that we get is primarily from when we have our quarterly reviews of progress. And so that's an opportunity 4 times during the year in which the principals come with their team and they can go over their SIP. During that time, we also have central office members that are there that participate, as well as the area associate superintendents, to provide information, resources, clarity, and also to be able to talk with schools around any adjustments that need to be made and what supports they need to make those adjustments.
And you're finding that, well, I guess we'll find out what you find.
The only thing I would mention is that we're going into year 3 of a SIP too, and so I think the importance of not having to start from scratch every year.
Right.
To the feedback piece of everything Dr. Gimbert said is just that schools are able to get some stability in this momentum. And you might recall when you were here, it was like a new SIP every year starting from scratch, and so I think that would just be the last piece I would add is the continuity that schools are able to create with having a multi-year SIP. I think it's been pretty key.
I love that lineup for not this coming current school year, but the following one, and when we'll be fully ready for our strategic plan. My second question and my last question is about the SIP strategy examples. Are these examples of what a SIP could be, or examples from school SIPs?
They're both. So these are samples from what some schools have used as their strategies, and also examples of what schools can use for their strategies.
Okay. But none of these are like, is any of these examples one that like no school picked, or we don't know quite? No, okay.
No.
There are examples and samples.
Correct.
I think I understand. I'm really excited. I really appreciate you putting the samples in there. I know I had asked for that in particular, because it really gives some like, I don't know, sense of what's happening in the schools. And I'm really excited to see the reestablishment of the 9th grade on track systems. And it just makes me think of what both Dr. Gothard and Chair Muldrow said about the importance and what our schools have said when they come and talk to us about the importance of stability and being able to have a team that sticks around and can build on itself. So thank you so much and have such a good year. I'm so excited. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Board Member Mosner Feltham. You've started at 7:30. It is now 7:36, and we will hear from Board Member Sharavo.
Thank you, Board Member Muldrow. Hesitant to say this, but after that conversation, I can't get the out of my head right now from all of those acronyms going back and forth with everybody.
Oh,
But
it's intense.
yeah. If no one understands that reference, that's totally fine, but that's gonna be stuck in my head. Okay. I really like the examples that are in here because I think it's really helpful to see something that's not even just like one example, but you really cross like all of the grade levels too, which is really helpful. I was wondering when the attendance was, where is that now? When you're referencing attendance, is that within the school, like skipping out of class, or this is attendance and getting to school?
Ask that one more time.
When you referenced attendance, I'm trying, the SIP strategy examples. Is attendance referencing getting to school physically or being in class and present while at school? Both.
Yes.
Okay, so it's all collected together.
Correct. So it's about being present. So for elementary attendance, it's taking a little different than when you take attendance in high school. So when they go by their class periods.
Okay.
Board Member Sarabo, though, that is a great one to bring up because though it may seem the same, how we measure it, very different strategies.
Yeah.
Of getting a child to school versus a child to class.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we've been hearing a lot about one side of it. I managed to make it to 10 different schools last week, but that was a big deal there is what are the students doing once they're in the building and making sure they're redirected while they're in there and what does that look like? So that literally, yeah, that's getting right at what I was thinking. Oh, probably kind of a random question because we don't have a lot of these students, but out of that really fun video, and we have lots of cool things that pop in the schools, do homebound learners get access to cool little programs and things like that? Or how do we,
Yeah,
I mean, proact,
The robot.
I mean, well, yes, to what you just said, Board Member Vanderveen. But the state statute allows students that are homebound or homeschooled to be able to access up to 2 courses throughout the school year. So if they're homeschooled, if they're physically homebound, our robots that are used in some of our schools allow for students to have some of those experiences, but we don't have traveling kits, if you will, at this point that go into the homes.
I think I was kind of thinking, like when you're going towards the end of the videos that we're going through, they have the badger, like some of the teams and stuff will show up and say hi to the kids. Like, because those students do not always gets complicated when giving them activities and things. And sometimes it's a really big highlight of something like that could be offered to them. And I just don't know if that's like an active thing that they would do. Not that people are excluding on purpose, but like, are we doing that with intention as much as we're doing it within the school building?
I don't know if we've asked that with the Badgers, but the Badgers do partner with the Children's Hospital and they create space now at the games and athletes meet with them at halftime and have been engaging with them. They have their own little space. That particular partnership, we're kind of revamping it for this upcoming year. It hasn't been a conversation about home visits. I know we have our village builders and many family liaison social workers that do a lot of home visits to ensure students are getting what they need when they're homebound and are homebound teachers, but I don't have an example where what you're asking about has made it to homes specifically. I'm sure there's examples at the school level of where they might have done things with like their mascots or others, but I'm not, I don't know. But I do know access to coursework if you're able to, if you're homeschooled.
Yeah, no, that I know that's very individualized for each student.
Yeah.
It's just that there are those highlights that can happen, and I just didn't know how often that crossed over to access for.
Agreed.
You so much. You started at 7:37. It is now 7:41. Other questions, board members? All right, seeing none, I will.
Motion to, so move.
Thank you. I was gonna add myself to the stack, so I will respect your motion. We get a second.
Sorry.
And adjourn. But I'm gonna ask a couple of questions. I really appreciated seeing the example of the literacy strategy and the example of the math strategy right next to each other. And I am curious what you need from us as a board to support that strategy moving forward. So how do we kind of hold that body of work and make sure that we're being effective in our approach to that? My other question about the math example specifically is where advanced learners fall into this and how we ensure we're not keeping opportunities to be recognized as advanced in the area of math based on gender, race, or a child's need for an IEP.
Sure. In terms of the investments, I would say for this year, our budget process that we last spring, June, got us what we need to implement for this year. Smaller class sizes at K1, Dr. Gothard mentioned the 4K expansion, literacy materials, our instructional coaches, the add of interventionists, et cetera. So I think for this year, the ability to implement these strategies are important. Moving into next year, I think through the instruction work group, you will see where we are going to be vetting new math material. So when we think about investments for next year, where we need to prioritize that in the budget would be an example, how we want to continue to sustain expansion of 4K or early literacy, et cetera. So I would say, I think we'll continue to see what happens with our strategic plan and what happens with the work this year to know what other investments or stable investments are needed. In terms of advanced learning, I think the differentiation that happens in our SIP goes across student groups. What you see here are many of what we would call like our universal strategies that we ensure. Dr. Stanford mentioned access to grade level standards, access to grade level materials, all of these things that we need to do first. And then what schools do through their action planning and their milestone is really do areas of differentiation where they're going to be focused on particular student groups, whether it's advanced learners, whether it's students with IEPs, whether it's a particular student group such as our English learners. That's where that happens. I think Becky Kundert's team and advanced learning team has really been focused on thinking intentionally about universal access for advanced learning and how that shows up, how you're able to access that in your school versus having to go somewhere else. And so we've been really thoughtful about other means of learning tools, whether it's online learning as well. But I think that's how they show up, is kind of like a layer below this where they really focus on that differentiation.
Thank you.
I just add in addition to the math, where you'll see a consent that is coming to the board for recommendation for supplemental resource in middle school for literacy. So that'll be coming to.
We'll see a memo coming to the board at the end of this month.
Consent memo,
A
yes.
consent memo. That is an investment in additional support in the area of literacy at the middle school level.
Correct, for supplemental material.
I love to see us invest in middle schools. Okay, Dr. Stanford, thank you. My questions started at 7:42 and I am done asking them. It's now 7:45 and I see Board Vice President Pearson.
Yeah, thank you. To Blair's point, really quick, a little earlier about the SIPs and the co-SIPs, and or wait, SIPs and co-dips.
Oh, dear.
Like, oh my God. Um, are there areas or times where you see some of the strategies with the schools kind of align with other schools? And then, trying to figure out a way that you can, I guess, support both schools, or even more schools universally. It may not necessarily live in the overarching ones for the district, but live in the schools that might match up with other schools. Does that make sense? So like for instance, like if we think, since we were just talking about advanced learning, right? And we're trying to expand that and find different ways to do that. So if there's like, groups of students in different schools, but not maybe enough students in each of these schools that may have some similarities as it relates to math, and the school is looking then to put something in place. Do we think about how we can kind of like merge that together? Does that make sense?
Yes. So I can start, and so that definitely does happen across schools. So for the elementary schools, they do have a lot of strategies that are the same, come together in small groups during those quarterly reviews of progress to look to see, again, what else might be needed, how they're addressing those strategies and where there might need to be shifts. For high school, they actually selected their strategies together. So all of the high schools have the same strategies that they're using to meet their goals, so that they're working together around that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. And then if there are like middle schools that, like for instance, middle schools that may match up with some of the high schools, are we looking even in that kind of like lateral piece? But,
Yes.
okay. Okay, that's it for me then.
Thank you, Board Vice President. You started at 7:46. It's now 7:48. Further questions from the board? All right, I'm seeing none. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Student Representative Claire, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Thank you all so much. Have a nice evening.
Savion Meyer, before you leave, just really quick, board members,